everybody. My name is Elexus Johnson. I am the Community Engagement Manager at Lions Pride Mentoring. Today I'm sitting here with Jamyle from the Bloc. He is a fearless leader, founder, and executive director. And we are here for our community conversation series on the advantages of emotional mentorship, specifically for young men.
Yeah, the only thing I would change is that I'm not fearless.
Oh.
I wake up scared or run scared.
Really?
Between anger and fear, those are two real good drivers for me. So I get to point those in the right direction. And a lot of the young people that we come in contact with are dealing with those same two emotions and have to figure out how do we manage them and what do we do with those feelings. So we have to figure out how do we harness that, how do we embrace them for who they are, and we use the sport of boxing to do that. So we're using the sport to engage those young people and then wrap them with support.
I love that. Do you think at any point the fear kind of like goes away for these kids once they learn to manage that emotion?
I always said, like, even as a boxer myself, I didn't want to go into a ring not nervous. That's going to be there for you. It means you're stepping into a new space in your life. It means you're trying to do more than what you've done in the past. So the fear, the anxiety is often an opportunity to game plan and to move into another level.
I mean, I always think if I'm like super nervous, that means I'm doing something I've never done before. And it's probably a good thing, like stepping outside of my comfort zone. So it can be pretty scary, but I do like that perspective a lot.
I mean, that's why the sport of boxing, I think, is such a strong conduit for that, because you often have to walk directly into that fear. There's no getting around it. You get used to that. You get used to using that muscle, and then you get to apply that in different areas of your life. Like, so I'm nervous about this test, or I'm nervous about asking that person to the prom, or I'm nervous about this job interview, whatever it happens to be. You get to figure out, through the use of our sport, how can I game plan and create success in this situation?
Yeah, I love that. So diving a little deeper into the organization in itself, or more specifically you, what personal experience led you to recognize the importance of this like mentorship opportunity for youth, and specifically in young men?
In high school, I had this track coach. I was a kid. I was arrested as a preteen. I was in court-ordered anger management, suspended from school. I used to fight a lot. Like, I couldn't look at somebody and think they thought they could beat me up and not fight them. Like, I was a hammer looking for a nail or a target looking for a bullet. I'm not sure. And I had this track coach who just spoke to me like I was the most powerful person in the world. Like, hey, you're gonna win this, you're gonna win that. People are gonna love you. He just really built me up. And taught me what it meant to fully pursue my dreams and believe that I was going to get there. And that was the first time in my life that I think a man had really stepped in and shown me this model of who I could be. It was really impactful for me to get that experience. So the first time I ever turned down a fight was because I needed to go to state championship in track. I'm not doing it. I got other things that I'm going for. And it was through being built up in that way, through being spoken to as if I was destined to make it, and I had something to protect, that really changed my outlook on those pieces.
Do you think in some ways it was also maybe not wanting to disappoint that person who had saw something in you?
It made me believe in myself so much that I didn't want to disappoint me, right? It was even more powerful than not wanting to let him down. Like, I know where I'm going now. I know what I have in me, and I can't let me down. I think it was even stronger. It became not even about him to where it could outlast him. Because I think a lot of times when we end up in like mentor-mentee relationships, there can be a codependency that gets created. But he didn't make it about how great he was. So then even when I moved on, I could continue in that trajectory without necessarily needing that piece from him.
Was it hard in the beginning to kind of refuse that sort of drive or initial like reaction to want to fight?
Was it hard to not be angry? I still get angry. Like, it's just a part of who I am. But I know how to direct that in a way that's not destructive to me or to people around me. When you're working with young people with anger issues, the thing that we tell them to do is stop. We say, don't be angry, like breathe, whatever. It doesn't work. Like, if it's a part of who you are, right? So I had to recognize what it meant to go from 0 to 100 and realize I went from 0 to 20 to 50 to 70 to 90 to 100, right? It wasn't immediate. I had to catch it on the way up, but I had to have a reason to do that. And once I had a reason to catch it on the way up, either I want to go to the state championship in track, or I need to stay calm so I don't get beat up in this boxing ring, right?
Yeah.
Once I had a reason to do that, I could then start to make a plan for myself and get better. So
I like that. I like not directing it in a way that's destructive. We can go into some more like industry, community kind of like questions. In what ways, like, do you see the principles and practices of mentorship intersecting in the fields of like youth development, education, and boxing within the Bloc?
Yeah, I think the most important aspect of mentorship that we have at the Bloc is modeling. You know, how do we model behavior? How do we show a young person what it means to be a successful adult? How do we show them what it means to work hard, to respect each other, to give and receive feedback, and continually practicing these pieces over and over again in an emotionally safe environment? We're pairing young people with youth development professionals who are just supporting them in a holistic way, and they're setting ambitious goals to work towards. So young people are asked to be goal oriented, asked to ask for help in getting towards those goals, and then held accountable towards reaching their goals. So, you know, and throughout the time, these youth development professionals are modeling to them how do you face setbacks and keep going. There's a level of vulnerability and trust that gets built in within the relationship, so that a young person can look and see, like, this is how these people have done it. This is how they're supporting me in getting this done, and this is how I should move.
Yeah, I love that. I think the first thing that came to me, and I think you also mentioned this too, having that representation or that person who believes in you in your life, it calls you to want more for yourself. The kids who are coming into the Bloc, you all are essentially that representation, that sort of like those people in their lives who are causing them to see themselves in a way that maybe they haven't. But what do you do with a child or someone who comes in and they're kind of struggling with that, like that belief of who they are and what they can achieve?
Yeah. I think everybody kind of struggles with that, right? Like, you look at high level executives and they look around like, oh, I don't really belong here. You know, that's such a natural part of being and a natural part of growth. What we have are what we call traits of a champion. So preparation, relationships, ownership, urgency, drive, and laser focus is what we look for. And we figure out, like, how do we instill that in boxing practice, right? So, are you prepared? Did you bring your stuff? You know, are you mentally ready for the day? How are you? What are your relationships like? How are you communicating with people? How are you giving and receiving feedback? Do you own the results of what's happening right now? So if I focus on this thing, I can get it right. If I take feedback from this person, I can get it right. If I have drive and I want to do this, I can get it right. So your very first step when you walk into a boxing gym is learning to do something you can't do.
Okay. And with anything like that you're doing for the first time comes consistency. So the kids who are showing up and they want to be there, I know sometimes it's kind of hard to be consistent in things just because outside circumstances might play a part.
Yeah.
How does the Bloc play a role in like helping kids to be more consistent?
First, we set the expectation. You know, we really expect you to be here 4 days a week. That's a high level of engagement for an after-school program. But we still see about 70% attendance on ours. So for an after-school program, 70% attendance is astronomical.
Yeah.
We set the expectation. We support them, so we have transportation. We're sending a call or a text if somebody's not there. We're checking. It matters when you're not here. So if you're not at the Bloc, somebody's reaching out like, hey, what's going on? Like, to really reinforce that expectation. We expected you to be here. Where are you right now? So the level of communication, removing barriers. A lot of times when a kid's not showing up to something, they maybe don't have what they need to participate in it. So at the Bloc, you just got all your stuff. You need gloves, we got gloves. You need wraps, we got wraps. You need shoes, we got we have what you need in order to participate in this. So removing those barriers, communicating, setting a high expectation, and then reinforcing the expectation whether it's met or not. On top of that, they're working towards something specific. So at the end of every training camp, there's a showcase. So you're either going to show up and do mid work with a partner. You can show up and spar with somebody. So it's like a practice fight. Your family's going to show up to this. Your friends are going to be there. So you need to be preparing for this. So there's an end date. your work is going to be put on display in a way that other people can see. So it's going to build that internal drive for you to come.
Yeah, that's really cool. I like the concept of like a showcase and like having that end goal. So even I think in my mind, it's nice to know like, okay, the objective is this.
Right.
And so everything I do in preparation to that is going to matter in the end. So love that. And the Bloc is located on the west side of Chicago.
Yep.
So how are you all collaborating and partnering with other organizations in that area?
Yeah, so one of our strongest partnerships is with the Step Ahead Chess. So they come in and they teach our fighters chess on weekends.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, strategic game, a war concept. There's a lot of parallels between chess and boxing. There was a fighter from our program, Marco, who started in chess on Saturdays. Said, you know what? I actually love chess, so I'm going to do chess full time now. So he moved over to Step Ahead Chess. He started going to tournaments, started winning tournaments, and now he gets paid to come to the Bloc and teach other fighters chess.
Oh, wow.
So, that's a really strong partnership. We partner with Sky Art for arts programming on the weekends. We have Kitchen Possible that comes to our space as well, where kids are cooking the same meal week after week after week after week. Then they'll present that to their family and friends at the end of the time. So that entire time with Kitchen Possible, they're learning how to take and give feedback, how to continue building on their knowledge in the space. I think there's a lot to learn within. We've got a partnership with Dion's Chicago Dream. They come out on every other Friday to pass out fresh produce. Every family, 150 families get a box of fresh produce every other Friday from the Bloc.
So this is more than boxing.
Yeah, absolutely. So when we say wraparound supports, we're going to meet young people where they are. We're going to figure out what their needs are and what the broader community needs are that they're coming from, and we're going to do our best, do whatever within our power to help meet those needs. So fighters are getting academic support, getting enrichment programming. So they've been on field trips to this summer, to Starbuck State Park, the Martin Luther King roller rink, the Garfield Park Conservatory, just getting around and seeing different
places.
Yeah. So the way I think about it is we're basically just availing a middle class experience to fall. That's what's happening there. Like if you want a chess club when you're a kid in a middle class neighborhood, you can get a chess club. If you want to go to Starbuck State Park, you can do that. If you want to go to a roller rink, you can do that. But there are kids who don't have those opportunities. If you need a tutor, if you're middle class,
easily accessible.
You can get that. So we're taking these opportunities that are available to most kids that we can expect success from, and we're giving it to kids who often don't have access to that stuff.
Yeah, I love that, and I always say representation matters, and like we talked about in the beginning, like if you don't see that, then you don't know that it's possible for you. But love what the Bloc is doing and how you all are just creating this new world for these kids, and allowing them to dream bigger, because this is just kind of tip of the iceberg of what is and what's possible for them. So I love that. Want to have a quick rapid fire brief intermission. So just a few questions. What is your guilty pleasure? It can be TV show,
What is my guilty pleasure? What is my guilty pleasure? Do I have a guilty pleasure? Do I have something that you
don't have to be guilty about it. It can just be something that you enjoy that helps you to kind of relax.
So I'm a man of peace.
Okay.
More than I don't really believe in violence to achieve like political aims or anything like that, but I love playing Call of Duty.
Okay. Okay, nice. Yeah. Call of Duty. What game is it on now?
And so I play Call of Duty Mobile. I don't have a game system.
Really?
Yeah. So
I didn't even know they had it on the phone.
It's not the same as when you get it on the system.
Like live with everybody.
Yeah, but I am live with other people around the world. Yeah. I don't have a gaming system though.
Okay.
I don't have time for that.
That's cool.
I'll sit down and play a game. I'll put my kids to bed. I'll play a game of Call of Duty before I go back downstairs.
Okay, nice. I like that. I didn't know that it was a mobile. I have Words with Friends, and 248. I'm like a patterns person. I love to solve puzzles and things.
I'll crush you in Words with Friends.
Okay, we might have to play around. Okay, if you could have dinner with anyone, alive or dead, who would it be and why?
Dinner with anyone alive or dead. I'm really curious about what happened in my family around like 1930.
Okay.
Right? Because my family, a lot of people in my family own land up until that point, and then it just stopped. Like I recently learned that my grandma had a twin sister who died young. Like there's so much that I don't know about our family history, right? And it's just like there's no way to answer it right now. And I'm really like, why did our family stop owning land and then just like become poor? You know, what happened around that time period to change that? So I would go like great grandma on my mother's side.
Okay.
That's where I would go.
I really like that answer. Yeah. Most people say someone that's famous.
Nah, I don't think famous people are that smart. Like they're not. They're just like regular people. Yeah, they're extreme extroverts. Yeah. That's the biggest difference between them and us. They're extreme extroverts. They were in the right place at the right time, and some of them are exceptionally talented. But they're no more likely to be exceptionally talented than a random person you see on the street.
Yeah, right. Or someone in your family.
Yeah.
I love that answer. Okay. Last question. What's your favorite self-care wellness activity?
Massage.
Okay.
Yeah, go get a massage. My massage therapist is Crystal Soto.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't go book her.
Right. Exclusive. Okay. Yeah. Gotta gatekeep. Nice. Yeah. I love that. How often do you get massages?
I would say like once every 6 weeks. Okay. Actually, no, more than that. Once every 3 weeks.
Okay.
Like twice. Yeah, so a little bit more than once a month is what I'm doing now. What's your favorite?
I have a few. Yeah. I think I would say meditation for sure.
Yeah.
Honestly, meditation and like being in silence. I like getting up early or I'm up late, but it's really when everybody else is asleep and the world is quiet.
Yeah.
I think just sitting with myself is like the perfect self-care wellness.
Yeah, it's like sometimes I have to like sleep procrastinate. Like I have to stay up late into the night just so I can have time by myself. Yeah.
It's important. Like hear yourself, like learn. Yeah.
And unwind.
Yes, absolutely.
What about your dinner?
Dinner? My favorite meal?
No, who?
Oh, my dinner. Yeah. Oh, I would say.
You ask me these questions.
I know. The tables are turned. I'm on the hot seat. You have such a good point, and I think not to steal your answer,
but to steal it.
I think that's like something I hadn't considered. I think you think about like infamous writers and people who have produced great work, and I think it's easy to say those names, but I'm also very curious, especially because of just like as Black people and our history and lineage has been lost. I think it's important. I would definitely sit down and have a conversation with one of my ancestors. I'm reading Homegoing right now, and it talks about two half sisters who were separated at birth, and it's during like slave trade, and it talks about their descendants and how their sons and like great grandkids and how they're all separated and just life after this traumatic experience in Ghana from and I'm just wow, like it's powerful. The storytelling is very beautiful too, but I think I would definitely be interested too.
There's so much to learn, and like how did you get through? There's so many things that I would want to know. Guilty
pleasure is definitely like I don't like reality TV, but I'm not a fan of reality TV, but I do like TV dramas.
Okay.
So I just like a good character development story. I don't need it to be real. Thanks for those answers. So kind of getting into like youth-based questions. I know we've been talking about that a little bit, but from your perspective, what are some of the most pressing emotional needs and challenges faced by young men today? I know we talked about anger, but
I mean, anger is coming from the seed of trauma in so many spaces. You think about the story of particularly Black people in Chicago who came here as refugees, right? Came here as refugees fleeing racial terror in the South, got here, were placed into segregated neighborhoods and had resources stripped from those neighborhoods to literally build the suburbs, right? That's the story of the migration from the South to Chicago. And with these neighborhoods being continually depleted, crime increases, violence increases, and then we end up in this cycle, the cycle of violence and poverty, and undereducation and economic underdevelopment, and the stripping of resources from certain communities, to where today you have a kid growing up on the block where he can expect a couple of people to be killed every year, right? If a couple of people are being killed every year within a quarter mile of you, that's a terrifying thing that you have to adjust to. So you have to adjust your way of being to survive in this atmosphere. And the adjustments that you make aren't going to make sense outside of that atmosphere. The adjustments that you make to live in that space aren't going to make sense in school. They're not going to make sense in a boardroom. They're not going to make sense anywhere else that you go. They're not going to make sense downtown when you go. So we're completely skipping over the fact that we have young people growing up not just with PTSD, but with complex PTSD, because they continually get re-traumatized by like witnessing, experiencing, being around people who witness violence. I walk into schools and I look around and just realize like these kids aren't healthy. These kids, this is not the behavior of people who are doing well for themselves. That people are blowing up in the hallways, just like having meltdowns, having panic attacks. They don't recognize them as panic attacks, and just think somebody's flipping out. So we're not recognizing the real emotional impact of growing up around violence, growing up around people who've experienced violence. We're not really internalizing the idea that violence spreads like a disease. The longer you spend around it, the more likely you are to exhibit its characteristics. And we're trying to get kids to sit down, shut up, and learn math, and it's not working. I think schools need to operate as trauma-informed hubs of trauma-informed care. Like the biggest provider of mental health services is our prison, right? In the state of Illinois, the more people get mental health services there than anywhere. That should be our schools. We need to do that in our schools. And we need to invest in that on the front end, so we're not sending people to prison on the back end. And we're completely missing the opportunity to reach kids right where they are and treat the trauma that they're growing up with.
What do you think about, I think now we're in this sort of era or time where wellness, mental health is a more prominent conversation that we're having. In education systems. How do you think that that's possible to even like bring in these physicians or like experts in order to like have kids have these spaces to be able to express what's going on and what's happened to them?
First, we need to apply that idea of wellness to Black and brown kids. So really like empathizing with and applying these ideas of wellness and mental health to Black and brown kids is one piece of it. Like if you really empathize with those young people, you realize like how unhealthy that would be. So that was the first step. And then I think we need to get serious about funding those opportunities, about funding mental health in schools. And we have to look at Chicago public schools, look at the performance of poor kids, look at the performance of Black kids, look at the performance of Hispanic kids in Chicago public schools. They're not being taught. They're not being taught on a level that's preparing them for college or careers. So there's clearly a step before that needs to be taken. Right? There's clearly a mental health reparation step that needs to be taken. So we need to get serious about funding that. We need to say that our first job in schools is to create healthy young people. As number one, before we start talking about math and science on a broad scale. Like Black kids are like at the bottom of the totem pole in terms of the scoring. It's not close. Hispanic kids aren't too far behind where they are. So I think rethinking what school is for. Let's start with having healthy kids, and then let's move into the education piece. So a reordering of priorities within our school system, and then influx of funding.
Even just thinking about like how long it takes to actually heal from trauma, and like you mentioned, like these kids are experiencing trauma after trauma, and so it's just piling on, and it makes sense why they're having these episodes in the classrooms. And I think teachers and even just school administration, it's hard to figure out what's going on, and I don't think it's because they don't care. I think it's because they don't understand.
And that's not even their job, right? They didn't get trained for that. They got trained in teaching pedagogy,
Yeah.
right? They didn't get trained in mental health care.
Yeah.
They got they may have gotten a course on trauma-informed care, but that's not what they're centered in. And we need to recenter our education system if it's going to work.
Yeah, a lot of the questions I have, we definitely have answered. In terms of like how the Bloc is fostering that sense of like belonging and inclusivity within their community. I think, you talked a lot about like peer-to-peer kind of like connection to being in the Bloc, kind of
like student leadership, peer-to-peer leadership. I really think of Jamyle, who was a squirrely little kid when he first started. He started when he was 10 years old. And the word I always use for him is rambunctious. Like, he was always looking for something to do. It wasn't always good. Like, when we first got our building, he spray painted on the side of it.
Wow.
He had his tag. I had to like call his mom and have him come up and clean it.
10?
Yeah, 10. Yes. Like, where you get this idea from? But had a lot of success within the program. Started growing as a boxer and really like showed himself as a leader within the space. And I think he got to use his voice in such a positive way that it continually got reinforced. So now he's in student leadership positions, leader in his church, leader at the Bloc, where he's the voice just telling everybody to hustle up. Like, this is how you do that. This is how you jump rope on your first day. We're looking at him to run a program at a school. So we're gonna pair him with a teacher, and he has a twin sister too. So we'll pair them with a teacher, and they'll teach the boxing portion of the program. So that peer-to-peer connection, I think it's best because they are the authentic messengers. He lives in the neighborhood. He's going to the school. He's gone through the program, and he just has a real opportunity to use his voice in a consistent way.
I love that. And like at Lions Pride, we do peer-to-peer mentorship too. And I think when I'm visiting schools and I'm seeing how students are interacting with each other, and even just like having these 10th and 11th graders mentor 9th graders, it's really beautiful. I think a lot about how I would have loved to have that experience when I was in high school, because like you have your teachers, and these kids are like you're coming into this new environment, especially as a 9th grader, and maybe you have siblings, maybe you know people, but maybe you don't.
Right.
And then it's harder when you don't, especially. And then not only is that the situation, but then you also coming from like circumstances that might be traumatizing or difficult. And I think having someone that's within that same age range who's had some similar experience is just as important. So I love that the Bloc is allowing students to come in and sort of like fostering them in order to like grow and want to grow and like take on these leadership skills or like roles that gives them leadership skills for the real world and how they manage and their interacting with other people. So I think that's beautiful.
I was gonna say, not only like the youth to youth piece, also prepares them for youth to adult leadership. So now fighters in our program are becoming personal trainers and training adults on weekends and running fitness classes. And they get money out of that. So you show yourself as a leader. You can start getting clients, and you can start running classes at the Bloc.
Okay. Well, those are all the questions that I have for you. Thank you so much for coming, for your time, for sharing your insights. Very things to think about. Like, I think I'm just like, wow, like there's so much to do and so much to like learn in terms of like how we're supporting youth and how we're being models and representations for what's possible. And I really appreciate all that you all are doing at the Bloc. Is there any final remarks or things that you want to highlight?
I'm just glad that the work of Lions Pride is happening in schools, to put young people in position to work with, mentor their peers. I think it's such a powerful piece. It's one that pieces of that should be emulated everywhere, because young people have such strong leadership skills, and they're the best messengers for the positive messages that young people need.
Yeah, and we do say students are the answers, so they know what they need, and I think we need to allow them to have a voice in order to share that with us, and not think because we're adults